Go to the next item. Next item on our public hearing is consideration action on mobile stage bids. Dr. Treadway.
The city opened bids on September the 29th for a mobile stage. You have included in your agenda item summary some details there. Essentially, what we found was that there are really two basic type stages that are out on the market. One is the one that we call the more traditional frame type structure, and we received several alternative proposals on those. And the other one is more of a clamshell or bandshell type structure, and we did receive multiple proposals on those. Our basic specifications that we put together and sent out were based on a stage size of approximately 400 square feet with a minimum stage width of 24 feet and a minimum depth of 14 feet and a minimum floor rating of 100 pounds per square foot. Based on what we did receive, we essentially would like to recommend two alternatives to council. One is a recommended vendor for the traditional frame type stage. There we're recommending the Marshall Austin MAP 24. Specifications for that were, summary specifications were included in your package. We included within their base package a stage lighting upgrade and ADA access package, which would bring the total price of that unit to $82,980. Our recommended alternative of the clamshell or bandshell type structure is the Century MSN 2800. This base package includes automated hydraulic leveling, their stage lighting upgrade, as well as their ADA access package. And this unit goes for $100,537. And we present those as alternatives for your consideration.
Any questions of the city manager?
All right. Mr. Treadway, the $82,980 for the MAP 24 model, or for the MSM 2800 model. Those monies, if you could explain to me where that money is coming from.
Included in our budget for the 2009 SPLOST, City Council had allocated $108,000 for improvements to the town green park. You'll recall in discussions over the last probably year or so, Council has considered a number of alternatives for improvements to town green park. One of those that was included there was a stage to be installed on the town green park. The mobile stage came up as an alternative for that, so our recommendation would be that council were to choose a mobile stage, that money be taken from that $108,000 in the 2009 SPLOST.
If the money is used to purchase the showmobile, would that hinder any other possible project that we have that money set forth besides the park itself?
No, sir. I mean, as I understand, council's will at this point was to forego any of those improvements at the present for the town center park. So there really is, this money would not be at this point allocated for any other purpose.
One other question. As far as storage and hauling this unit here, I don't know how much it weighs. It's in the documents. I'm unclear about that. Hauling it, moving it, and storing it. How do we do that, and how much? What are the liabilities on that?
We would obviously need to find some storage for the area. It would appear that the clamshell Century MSM 2800 unit is an item that could be stored outside because it is hard-bodied and hard-shelled. The Marshall Austin MAP 24 we probably would need to store inside, particularly during inclement weather. Both units need something on the equivalent of a help me Lisa, 450, an F450 size pickup truck.
Do we have the F-450?
We have trucks that are of that size or larger that we could use for transporting this, yes, sir.
So this is not an extra purchase that we're looking at incurring?
That's correct.
Any other questions? All right, now the chair will entertain a motion. Mr. Woods?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that the city purchase the Century Industries MSM 2800 mobile stage at a price of $100,537.
There's a motion. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
All right, there's a motion. Mr. Woods, the floor is yours for comment.
As Dr. Treadway just said, we did his last year set aside $108,000 for the for the building of a stage or performance platform over at the town green. That didn't happen. In the meantime, speaking with some of the other departments in the city and some of the requirements and necessary needs of some of the volunteer organizations in the city, it became apparent to us that the mobile stage would be a very good alternative. For instance, during Snellville days, we pay somewhere in the neighborhood of between $5,000 and $7,000 just for that day of rental of the stage for our concert. When STAT puts on an event on the town green, it's $2,000 to $2,500 just for the stage. So it's a very expensive, pretty much the same thing that we're talking about here. It's a pretty expensive proposition when you figure that we're going to have 5 to 6 concerts on the town green every year, and also Snellville days. That's $20,000 a year that we spend. We have nothing for. This $100,000 spent will allow us to save that $20,000 a year that we just throw away on these stages, and it also allows us. This stage is also something that we could rent out. I've checked with other communities that have stages of this caliber, and they rent them out to nonprofit organizations, and some of them lease them, and then what their rental payments are actually make the lease payment. Others own it outright, and they lease them out to other organizations. Whether we do that in the future or not is up to the next council, but to me, this $100,000 makes much more sense than a permanent building on a town green, which, as the town center plan develops, will have to change. It will not be. It won't fit into the new town plan, and it still gives us the ability to hold concerts on our city green, and then also use it for Snellville days.
Mr. Warner?
When we were looking at the development of the town green in the fourth quarter of last year, one of the issues that came up was we could not come up with consensus on what size the stage should be, where it should be located, the height, whether it should have a roof, whether it shouldn't have a roof. Every question you could think of, we couldn't come up with an answer as far as building a place for performances on the town green. And one of the proposals that was brought to our attention at that time was the possibility of a mobile stage. What we're looking at here is offering the city and all of the organizations that are involved with the city with flexibility to have performances where we want performances this year, next year, and on into the future, rather than being saddled with a static stage that means all of our entertainment has to happen at that venue. This will serve the city for a number of years, and whether or not the next council decides to rent it to adjacent cities for their events or not, I think this is a great investment for our future and will allow us to cut down on some of the expenses that we have in the various events that we put on throughout the year. So I certainly hope the rest of mayor and council can support this.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak before I open? Since it's a public hearing, I'll open to public comment. Anybody wish to speak either way on this?
Curt Schultz, 2027 Tanglewood Drive. I think this is just an excellent idea and gives the city so much flexibility in what we can do. The one thing I would like to suggest, since there's a little money left over, is to go ahead and upgrade the electrical out on the town green, because I believe there's only 4 outlets out there now, and it's not enough when you hook up all the sound systems and everything, so it just needs to be expanded. I believe the capacity is there. It just needs to be modified to, adapt to larger capacity. So if you would possibly include that in what's going to be done here, I think that would be good, and then we won't have to use generators, the extra cost for generators. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? Okay, I close the public comment. I'll call the vote. All those in favor of the motion as stated by Mr. Witz, signify by raising the right hand. 2 in favor. Those in opposition? 2 in opposition. The motion is defeated. We'll now go into